Oh, my Lord. Thank you, those of you who are joining us here this afternoon. It's afternoon in Jamaica. It's now 5 p.m., but it's 6 p.m. in Canada, 6 p.m. in the United States of America, or should I say, some parts of the United States of America. And it's 6 p.m. in Cuba. My guests this evening are Tatiana Harvey, and she is in Canada. Marcia Skiles James, who is in New York, but on a bus from Washington, D.C. to New York. So there's possibility exists that we may lose her at some time during the interview. Our other guest, Jamila Brown, is in Cuba. She is a medical student in Cuba. Tatiana Harvey is a student in biology, while Marcia is a director of sales in one of the, I almost said resort, hotels in New York. Now, all four of us that are supposed to be here this evening have lost our parents or lost a parent to cancer. Now, cancer is such a debilitating, such a deadly and horrible disease that it affects just about every household in this world. So there's hardly any family that we know of that can tell you that there is not one member of their family that has suffered as a result of cancer. In fact, the information that we now have is very alarming. On Friday, CNN reported that cancer cases, there's a global epidemic of cancer among people younger than 50. They say that this could be emerging. Now, colon cancer is a cancer that you would usually ensure that by the time you get to 50, you're checking to see if something is wrong with your colon. They have reduced that age to 45 because of how many people under age 50 are now having colon cancer, of so many people having myeloma, you name it. Now, my mother died from cancer in 2021. She was 84. It doesn't matter how old your parent is. No one can manage the loss of a parent. So you can imagine Tatiana, whose father, who had just turned 50, dying from cancer. And Marcia's mother, who was 57 at the time when she died from breast cancer. It was breast cancer? I don't remember. Marcia is going to tell you because I'm going to allow each person to introduce themselves and talk to you about how they suffered, the pain they went through, the pain they saw their parent going through as a result of cancer. I mean, I still wake up in the mornings and think about my mother being in the next room. I still recall taking her to the hospital every day to get chemo and radiation. At the end of the day, she died. But I want to introduce Tatiana and then Marcia and let us get straight into it. I think Jamila might be online waiting for us to invite her on because she's in Cuba and she was having a lot of problems getting on to the stream. Tatiana, talk to us about your father, how you lost your father to cancer.
Okay, well, my father had stage 4 prostate cancer. He had it for about 2 years. He did know that he had 2 years to live. However, he withheld that information from us. So initially, before I was living in Jamaica with my mother, my parents were in a long distance marriage. So we decided to move from Jamaica to Canada to be with my dad. And I am so happy that we did because 5 months after we moved, he passed away.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 5 months after. It was very rough. I was in denial that my dad was sick. My dad was very muscular, he was athletic. And to see how fragile he got, how skinny he got, the cancer just seemed like it was eating away at him. It was very heartbreaking to see such a strong man that I knew when I saw growing up to just end up in like a child. He literally started to look like a child and he
Wow.
became awfully fragile. Yeah, it was rough, and it's as if you have to stay strong. You can't break down in front of the person or really around anyone because you're trying to keep everyone together and keep everyone's spirits up, even though things aren't looking the best. I remember having to clip my dad's toenails or like his nails, and I would give him food, and seconds after giving him food, he would puke it out. And, I would try my best to keep it together and to not like break down or freak out in front of him because I know that he's also heartbroken that his 15-year-old daughter is having to witness all of everything that was going on. So I didn't, although I saw everything that was going on, I was like, no, there's no way it's this big bad cancer that my dad has. And things started to get a little, not a little, definitely more serious. He was in the hospital, and my mom was staying with him often. She was living in the hospital. Oh, God bless her heart. The nurses were even like giving her a warning, saying like, this is not healthy for you to be in the hospital, staying the night all the time. Um, and I was staying somewhere separately. I guess she didn't really want me to see my dad in the way that he was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he had the choice if he wanted to stay at home or be in a hospice. At the time, I had no idea what a hospice was.
Mm-hmm.
But for the viewers who don't know, the hospice is where you would go if you have a
Yeah.
terminal
Yeah.
illness. I had no
Terminal.
idea. Yep.
I'm
So
gonna come back to you, Tatiana. I'm gonna invite Marcia to start telling her story, and then I'm gonna come back to you because I want to find out from you as well, Tatiana, whether or not your dad was in a lot of pain and you saw that. Marcia, tell us about your mother. I know her death happened in 1985, so persons may think that's a long time ago. However, it doesn't matter how long your parents die, you still miss them.
You always do. You always do. You don't get to that,
No.
especially a mother. My mom had multiple myeloma, and it went undiagnosed for some time. She worked in a bank at the time when this was happening, and she thought that she had hurt her back by picking up a box of coins. And so she attributed the pain that she was having in her back to having picked up the box of coins. And for some time, she was seeing the doctor, and they weren't checking for anything but back pain. And so it was quite a while after that they did blood work and discovered that, in fact, she had cancer. So
Let
she
me
was,
ask you, what is multiple myeloma? For those
it's,
who might be
it's,
watching and not know what that is.
it's bone marrow cancer.
Bone
And
marrow.
yes, and at the time in 1984, there was not much progress in the treatment of bone marrow cancer. Today, there are many people who survive with stem cell transplants and bone marrow infusions, but back in that time, it wasn't. She she wasn't even at 57. They said she wasn't even a candidate at the time for a bone marrow transplant. Whereas
Wow.
today, people at that age get that and survive quite well.
How difficult was it for you, Marcia?
So it was very difficult. Tatiana, I heard you say that you didn't even know what hospice was, and it was the same thing for me. I had no clue what hospice was at the time, and being young. I mean, I was 24, but in the world of medicine and all that, I had no idea. Today, of course, I would ask a lot more questions, but at that time, I didn't even know what to ask. And my father had already passed away, so there wasn't another parent to go to and talk to about this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, my mom deteriorated. She was actually diagnosed in November and she died by June. So it was a pretty rapid progression of the cancer. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, also back in that time, you know, Jamaicans don't really ever want to talk about cancer much. They keep it very quiet. They talk about the big C. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't talk about it with a whole lot of people because she just didn't want people to know that she had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, you know, there was not, I didn't have a lot of sources to relieve the stress that I was under at that time. And in truth and in fact, even when they said she was going to hospice, I didn't think that she was going to die. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that my mother was going to be cured. So in my naivete at the time, I really did not expect her to die when she did.
Mm-hmm.
And though I saw that I mean, she had really good insurance at the time, so we were able to keep her at home with 24-hour nursing services. So
Mm-hmm.
that was comforting that she was at home and you know I was there. But I really did I didn't I didn't know that hospice meant that she was being condemned to death really. So it it came as a shock to me when she died.
Wow.
Though all the signs were there. I mean, now that you look back, she was
Mm-hmm.
losing a lot of weight. She wasn't eating as much. You know, all the signs were there. But I guess you kind of you go into denial at some point with this.
Yes. You go
And
into denial.
yes, you do. You do.
I was in denial. I'm going to tell you how I discovered that my mom was sick. I didn't know she had cancer. But 2 years before, it was 2020 rather, so it would have been a year before, we had a luncheon. And my mom was like the special guest. It was a Sarah's Children International Women's Day luncheon. And I saw my mother sitting at the table, like a head table, almost like a head table. And I looked at her and she looked very, very thin, much slimmer than I was accustomed to seeing her. But then I just wondered how it was that she was taking off weight so rapidly. Anyway, I didn't think that she had cancer then, if you know what I mean. However, my mom had been going to the doctor, and the doctor had been telling her to go and do some tests. But because none of us went, because my mom was very, very independent, and my mother would go downtown on her own and go to the doctor on her own because she was so independent. None of us went with her. So she would go to the doctor. The doctor would tell her these things. My mom did not come back home and tell us what was happening because I don't know that she understood what was happening in her body. I also I don't know. Sometimes when Jamaican people are afraid of taking tests, by the way, I
Mhm.
have a sister who will not go to do a mammogram. She says she does not want to know if she has breast cancer. And I'm wondering if my mother probably thought that something like that was happening to her and decided that she didn't want to know. Because that's also a possibility, you know. Because she told me some time ago as well that if she had cancer, we were not to tell her. So we never told her when we did realize that she had cancer. But it was really hard on me. I moved my mom to live with me when I realized how ill she was. And the first time that she was operated on, when we found out it was stage 3 cancer. So when they took out and went in and realized that it was colon and they took out all of that area, we thought that everything was okay, but we were wrong. Tatiana, talk to me about your dad. How? painful. What did you see him go through?
So I would also like to add that the doctors misdiagnosed my dad. He was puking a lot, vomiting all the time. They thought it was acid reflux. Well, the whole entire time they were treating him for acid reflux when in
Mhm.
fact it was prostate cancer that he had. My dad was very fragile. He had to use a walker. Um, yeah, he was just literally lethargic, always tired. Um, I remember having like to give him lots of, it's called Boost here in Canada, but it's basically like Suppligen or Ensure. We had
Mhm.
a lot of that because he just needed those supplementary drinks. He
To give
was
him strength.
to give him that strength, exactly, not having any appetite, vomiting all the time, you know. And that's the thing I think people started to realize because my dad's nickname is Juice. So he loves to drink a lot of juice. And he was, he would definitely, when he would go out with his friends, he was vomiting a lot. Like he was really, everyone became concerned. So that's the main symptoms that I usually experience. He was just very weak. He had to have a walker even when he wanted to do things like use the bathroom. There was a specific device that was over the toilet because he couldn't squat as far. And yeah, he needed assistance doing everything, literally everything. He needed someone to bathe him, um, to help him to do just basic stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Same thing with my mom.
yeah.
Same thing with my mom. Marcia, how bad did it get for your mom?
Pretty bad. I mean, she had in the last stage when she was at home with the nurse during the hospital times, it was not as bad. But then she had a little bit of respiratory difficulty and they had to put a trach in. And after the trach went in, it really became more and more difficult because then she couldn't talk. So basically, everything she wanted to tell us, she had to write. As a matter of fact, I still have a lot of those writings that I've kept over the years. But she wrote everything. She, even when she got annoyed with us, she wrote it down. So, but the, the better part for us was that we were not alone handling it because, as I said, she had care 24-hour, an RN at home with her 24 hours because her insurance was just excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have to do help her as long. We were there for support more so, but for all the physical things that needed to be done, the nurses did that. So
Oh,
that was a little bit easier on our part.
lucky for you.
Yes.
For us,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
we took care of my mother until her last days when we realized that we couldn't do as much because she had to have 24 hours security. Nurse. She had to have a nurse 24 hours. But in the beginning, in fact, after she did her operation and we thought everything was okay because it was stage 3, the thing moved to stage 4 and had moved to one side of her pelvic area. So it was spreading now. And so the doctors wanted to go back inside, but they felt that her age at 84, the doctors did not want to go back inside. So we were trying radiation, which was, oh, I tell you, would make her so weak in the days. When she would finish with radiation, she had to use a wheelchair to get to the car. And then when she coming out of the car, we have to hold her because she felt like she was going to fall down. And my mother was a very proud woman as well. So it was and very independent, like I said. So it was very difficult for her. But it was even more difficult for us watching this strong woman coming to frailty, if you know what I mean. She had gotten so slim. Her weight had gone down to like maybe 90 pounds. I mean, I was in a state of shock. There were nights when I would just go into my bed and I would just cry. I would cry. I couldn't let her know that I was worried. All the time, I tried to ensure that she did not know that I was worried. And I never told her once that she had cancer, but I suspected that she thought that she had cancer because she kept asking all sorts of questions, yet she said she didn't want to know. I want to welcome Jamila. Jamila, you're muted. Maybe you want to unmute? Jamila, can you hear us? I don't think she's hearing us.
Yes,
Oh, you're hearing us?
yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, we're hearing you now. But I think you're still buffering, but we're hearing
But I don't
you.
know if you're hearing me.
Yes, we're hearing you. So, for those who are just joining us, Jamila is a medical student in Cuba, and she's having problems coming in on the stream. But she's on now, so let's see what we can hear from her. Jamila's mother died when she was pretty young, eh? What age were you when your mom died, Jamila? I'm gonna write her. I sent you a message, Jamila. I don't know if you're seeing it.
I was 11. My sister was 6.
Tell us more.
I'm
Tell us
sorry.
more, Jamila. Mom was 30, or mom was 37.
30.
Jamila, we're hearing you, but you're not hearing us. So continue to talk. Continue to speak.
So I don't know if you're hearing me clearly, but yeah, she was 37, 36 thereabout. And we were 11. Okay, so I was 11, my sister was 6, you know. Well, for us, I remember what happened was that she felt a lump in her breast, and she told daddy, and they went and they did some tests. When they did the test, it came back that of course, yes, she had breast cancer. And usually what they do in a case like that, of course, is either you will surgically remove the lump, or you will do a mastectomy, which is what she did. And when I asked my father further, he told me that the what did he tell me? He told me that when they did the mastectomy and everything, they wanted to do more tests to see if the cancer had spread to other areas. So in the meantime, while they sent a test to Miami to see, if the cancer had spread, to other areas, based on my understanding. And while they did that, they gave her some chemo pills, but the test eventually came back negative. When it came back from Miami, it came back negative, that the cancer had not spread, and that there wasn't any need for her to take any more of the pills. So we thought then that everything was okay, and 2 years later, we found out she started feeling a lot of pain. And when we went to the doctor, the doctor said that the cancer had spread to her liver, and usually when cancer spreads to the liver, we know that we're in serious problems. So that is how, how everything came about.
Oh my God. How painful was it? Continue, Jamila, if you're hearing me. I just sent you the questions. How painful was it for you and your sister and your father? Don't tell me we have lost Jamila again. All right, I'm gonna mute Jamila's.
It for me, the thing is, as a child, you don't really know what is happening. You are, I in my mind, the well, okay. So from me, I honestly thought that because of the type of woman that my mother was,
All right, so we're losing Jamila. We're losing Jamila. I'm gonna mute her mic and we talk. Christopher Thomas is asking, what support can be given specifically for caregivers of cancer patients, specifically family members who have to shoulder the stress of caring for their relatives with little or no help from others. Um, what support can be given specifically for caregivers of cancer? Now, I feel that education is important where caregivers are concerned. If you have someone in your home suffering from cancer and you don't understand what they are going through and you don't show them patience, because remember now, a lot of times when an adult gets cancer, it's almost as if they go back to becoming children. So you have to be patient with them. You have to understand that you are the person who they are going to be very, very dependent on. And so you must be available for them. And at all times, you cannot let them think that they are being a bother to you. Those things are extremely important. And you can't leave them alone at home either. You always have to leave them with someone. For instance, my mother became very afraid of staying home alone. She never wanted to be alone at home at any time because she was worried that something could happen. There are many times that my mom was walking in the house and she would just hear her just drop. So after a while, we stopped having her walking alone. Somebody would walk next to her to ensure that if she fell, then one of us could help her up. Yeah. Any other advice from any of you on specifically for caregivers of cancer patients, how they need to deal with them?
I think it's really important to have support, and it may not be from other family members, maybe it's from friends, but it's very difficult to do this on your own because, as we know, it's a very stressful time for everybody in the family, and it's you should never rely on one person to give the care. It has to be spread out among a few people so that one person doesn't endure all the stress. And however that may be, sometimes there are support groups that can help. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's, sometimes it's strangers even that have to come in and support. But it's never a good idea to have one person who is the constant caregiver, because that person is going to burn out. And when you are tired and exhausted, it's harder for you to be empathetic, and it's harder for you to really love and care for that person, because because you're under stress and duress. So that's my suggestion.
I think that the Cancer Society too has a number of groups in the various parishes, and those groups are support groups. So the first thing I would do is to find out from the Jamaica Cancer Society, where can we get help if we need that type of help. And usually it's psychologically, mentally, it's very difficult. It does play havoc on your mental capacity to deal with what is happening around you. I can tell you that there were many days when I felt like I was going to go into depression, but I knew that I had to be strong for my mother, because she was very, very perceptive. If something was very, very, very wrong, she would suspect it. So I had to be, and I had to ensure at all times that she didn't see worry on my face. Tatiana, what do you think?
I wholeheartedly agree with both of you ladies, because what a lot of people don't understand is that we are not prepared for when a loved one gets cancer. Unfortunately, it can come at the most random time, and then you're now expected to have this caregiver role. You're not used to this. I was 15 years old. I'm not used to having to take care of someone else. I'm used to my parents taking care of me, and then to have to reverse to the role reversal at such a young age. You don't know how to navigate. You don't know how to deal with having to adjust your sleep schedule. And luckily, I did have my grandmother, for instance, was able to fly up from Jamaica and stay with my dad and take care of him. We had a nurse. Me and my mom, we came. My uncle used to come over 7 o'clock in the morning to make my dad breakfast and bathe my dad. So we had that support from other family members, and it's very important, because when you leave all that responsibility on one person, it's very overwhelming, because, as I said, like, you have people who are going about their normal lives, and then you realize that my mom or my dad or my sibling is now sick, and I now have to take care of them. I never went to any schooling in order to know how to take care of someone. You have to learn these things as you go. So I definitely believe, and I agree with you guys, emotional support groups are very important, because it can be a very confusing time for you. Janet, you mentioned being like having some education programs, because educating yourself on how to properly care for someone and how to be empathetic towards their situation, because it can be very difficult. And also having to navigate and spend some time for yourself as well, because I have met with fellow survivors, family members who their parents had passed away from cancer, and they went into full caregiver mode. They went all out, above and beyond, carried their parents to their appointments every single day. And when their parents died, they didn't know what else to do. They felt lost. Nothing else made sense, because for the past 2, 3, 4 years, that was their routine. Getting up early in the morning, making my parent food, showering them, everything. And now, once they pass away, they no longer know what to do with themselves, and it can cause depression. So I definitely think that support is important.
So you think then that there should be a support group for family members?
Definitely. It's
I
hard.
think so too. I don't know if there is one that exists right now, but I would want to start something like that here in Jamaica, here in Montego Bay, St. James, where we can support each other those of us whose family members are having problems and are having issues with cancer, really. I know of an elderly man right now who is blind, who is having prostate issues, but he's also a very stubborn man. And so somebody has to take him to the hospital all the time, has to take him to the doctor. But he also needs help in his home, because when you go into his house and you see the conditions under which he's living in, you know that he needs to have somebody there helping him. So I would like to see those types of groups, for instance, that would be able to go and visit a man like that, help him on maybe one day of the week, maybe cook a meal for that person. You know what I mean? Those type of things I would like to see happening. Jamaicans have always been a caring group, a caring nation of people. However, I know that some of us are extremely busy, and so we don't find time for others enough. And a lot of older people don't have any pension, so they can't afford the kind of care that they need for cancer. I am telling you that if we were not able to afford the kind of care that my mother got, then I don't know what would happen. Honestly, I'm worried for the other people who can't afford to find money to care for their family members. Honestly.
Yeah. I completely forgot that healthcare is free in Canada. So I completely forgot that in Jamaica, you have to be able to afford that kind of care. So it's definitely heartbreaking to know that people, unfortunately, aren't able to survive, cancer because of their socioeconomic status, whereas they would have been able to survive if they had enough money.
Healthcare is free in Jamaica too. But guess what? Yes, but guess what? The line is so long. The appointment to get your operation or surgery done is gonna take you such a long time that by the time they get to you, you're dead. So you go and you find a private facility, and it's extremely expensive to do those types of operation. Hospital fee alone is $500,000. Doctor's fee, another $500,000. By the time you quint, you're looking at $1.2 million. And as I said before, the elderly people in Jamaica don't have no pension. They don't have any insurance to help them. So as a result, you find that they end up having to spend a lot of money, but families can come together and help each other. So that helps. Marsha, where was your mother when she had cancer? In the States?
Yes, she had already migrated here.
Praise God for that. Praise God for that.
Yeah, from
Donna
that
Johnson
perspective,
is a good thing. It's a good
yes.
thing. Donna Johnson has commented. She says, after chemotherapy, my mom vomit a lot. Black stuff came through her nostril, broken bones in her body. Well, listen to me. With the chemotherapy, today it's not as bad. They have some tablets that are kinder to the body. But my mother had become very, very frail because she had lost so much weight and she was now 98. I saw a skeletal form in her. I mean, I'm so happy that I was able to give my mother the care that she got. Happy that she came to live with me. Yeah, because I could understand what she was going through when she came to live with me. Let me see who else
I
is
think
here.
there is another thing I'd like to say, Jonah, that sometimes, for those of us who have friends who go through breast cancer at a young age and are going through chemo, for example, one of the things I find that is very supportive is to be there with the person while they go through chemotherapy. And I've seen this work in a few cases where there's a support group of friends that will rotate the time that they spend going to the hospital with a person for the chemo center to get the chemotherapy. Because when someone is sitting, particularly the younger people who suffer from breast cancer, when one is sitting in this in and getting chemotherapy, your mind plays all kinds of tricks on you, and it's just a good idea to be there for that person, to keep a conversation going and to make them know, take their mind off of what they're going through for those 2-3 hours that they may be undergoing the chemo treatment.
Okay. I think that's a great idea, particularly for younger people who might not be able to. Yeah, I understand. Thank you, Grace Finley Campbell, for joining. Sky Loss Nasi saying good afternoon. Jamila saying she can hardly see. I don't know. I think that's what she's saying. I see two eyes. I see Altia Leng saying hi. Who else is on and saying hello? Well, mainly it's Christopher Thomas who has been asking questions. Good, okay. Sadly, my mom died from this horrible cancer, multiple myeloma, age 72 years in 2015. Yeah. And there are a lot of people now who are having multiple myeloma, by the way. That is what the statistics are showing right now. So this is something that we should be very concerned about, particularly the younger people. And I'm wondering if diet, because they say diet can help you, but I know of somebody who eat the best foods, exercise like it going out of style, yet still has cancer. So I think it's the air that we're breathing. Could be the air we're breathing. Could be the water that we're drinking. What do you think, Marcia?
And the food you're eating,
Yeah, it must be the food. I mean, the food contributes to it as
the
well.
the things that are put into, I don't know, there are pesticides in almost everything that we eat nowadays. So at some point, those things must contribute.
That's true. But we're 42 minutes into this interview, and I'm just going to allow each person to say a few words before we log off and thank those who have been watching, because it is a year now, and I'm going to start first, by the way. It's a year now since my mom died. Next to the 28th of October will be that year. And I still wake up in the mornings and think that she is in the bedroom next to my bedroom. I still go through that. So my mom was very special to me. Very, very special woman. And so it's going to take me years to get over her death. But her death has taught me something. It tells me that I must go and get checked for colon cancer. My colonoscopy is important. And I should have done it last year, but I have an appointment to do my colonoscopy on October 25 in honor of my mother. I am encouraging everyone out there, if a member of your family died from breast cancer, there is the likelihood that you can have breast cancer too. So get checked. Get your screenings done. Don't wait until it's cancer month to decide that you're going to get screened. Donna says she believes the DNA, the food, the environment, and stress level contributes to cancer. And I am in total agreement with her. Grace Finley says, Grace Finley Campbell, by the way, is my sister and Mother Sarah's daughter, so you can imagine. And she worse than me when it comes to loving that woman. She says she has done hers. Praise God. I say Pauline Marie White on, which is Tatiana's grandmother. What you want to say finally, Tatiana? Your final words on this subject matter this evening.
So it has been 7 years since my dad has passed away. My dad passed away when I was 15. So a lot has changed since I was 15. It never gets any easier. It never does. You cross so many life milestones in your life. You know, you get your first car, you get your first job, you get into your dream school, and you wonder, like, would he have been proud of me? Would he have been proud of the woman that I am today, of all that I have managed to accomplish, you know? Janet, you mentioned that you feel like your mom is still in the room. And when my father passed away, it felt like he was on vacation. I didn't think that he was dead, like he was gone. I even spoke at the funeral, and it felt like he was just away for some time and that he would be back soon. So it's very difficult, and it's not. I don't think that grieving a family member or a parent is anything that's you're just going to be able to, you know, one day it's just gonna be fine. Unfortunately, not. You know, you're gonna get married and they won't be there. You're gonna graduate and they're not there, and it hits different on celebratory occasions for sure. And I'm saying that just to say my paternal grandmother died of breast cancer. My paternal grandfather outlived my dad. He had prostate cancer and they found the cancer early. So, you know, definitely listen to your body, get checked out, because I know it is very fearful seeing firsthand what a close family member went through. You know, you possibly you're so afraid of the results, you don't want to have to go through that, but you know, it might be life changing. It might save your life if you decide to get checked, listen to your body. Your body speaks to you in different ways, and definitely do your checkups. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm trying not to cry.
No, that's okay.
It's
Crying is
very
okay.
difficult, and it's very, very difficult because, you know, closer that it gets to my mom's anniversary, then, you know, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It doesn't get any easier, and that's a fact. It does not get any easier. You know, I'm looking back and I'm wondering, was there anything that we could have done differently? Could we have been there at the doctor with her most of the times to ensure? You know, so those are some of the things you need to look into when you have your elderly family members. Don't make them be stubborn and be too independent. You be there with them all the time and go to the doctor with them and sit in the room to hear what the doctor has to say. Don't let the doctor tell you that they're adults and that you can't be in the room. Insist and find out what is happening with your family members. Marcia?
Janet, I see you crying, and sadly, I'm going to tell you this, that the tears don't go away. I remember on the 25th anniversary of my mom's death, I literally cried like a baby all day. And it was just like, oh my goodness, it's 25 years later, but
Yeah,
it still hurts. It still hurts no matter what. So, you know, sadly, the tears will continue for a while. But
yeah,
one of the things that I think, and you've said this before, is to, do your tests, but also be an advocate for yourself. My
yes.
it's supposedly my multiple myeloma is not hereditary, but I ask my doctor on my annual checkup every year. I have them run specific blood tests for cancer, and I make sure that is done every year, just because I think there's a lot that they still do not know. They don't know for sure that it's not hereditary. That's what we think today, but as you know, as they make new discoveries, sometimes those things change. So I just think it's important to be your own advocate, and particularly when you find that there is a diagnosis for cancer within your family or with friends, ask the
Mhm.
questions. Do not be afraid to ask the questions. Be your
Right.
own advocate.
Thank you very much, Marcia. I've seen where Jamila, whose mom died when she was 11 years old and who is now in med school in Cuba, who was supposed to have been on with us this evening but had issues getting on. it says that it really doesn't get easier. It's a process. Exactly, Tatiana. And as you get older, really, it is a process. So the two young people online with us today, part of this program, which Angela Burns, who is in the BVI, says is very touching, even though she can't identify, but one never knows. It can be very painful to watch your loved ones literally disintegrate, because it's almost a disintegration in front of you, and you know that there's not much that you can do about it because of the various stages that cancer comes in. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Usually when you get to stage 4, you know that you're at the end of the road, unless something of a miracle happens. And I guess also it depends on the type of cancer. Dion Luton says she's sending love. Thank you, Dion. We appreciate the love this evening. We really do appreciate it. Shirley Finley says, good afternoon. That's my other sister that has joined us. I want to thank everyone who has joined us this afternoon into evening. It's dark on the bus that Marcia is on from Washington, D.C. to New York, where she lives. We can see a silhouette, but we are extremely gracious, very, very grateful, Marcia, that you took the time to join us on this program this evening as we speak about the losses that we have had in our lives owing to cancer. Cancer has taken away our loved ones, and it has given, and we're being given an opportunity to speak about it. And I want to thank you again for joining us. Tatiana, you have done so well, my darling. Thank you. You have been so strong, so strong. Your dad died when you were age 15. You're now 23, still a student. But just the way you spoke about your father with so much maturity, so much understanding of what life is all about gives me hope. So thank you so much for joining us. Jamila, we're very sorry that you didn't get an opportunity to join us the way we would have wanted you to join us. But next time, maybe when you come home to Jamaica from Cuba, we can do it again. How does that sound? Christopher Thomas, Donna Johnson, Shirley Findlay, Althea Leng, Grace Campbell, Sky Lawson, thank you all. Pauline Marie White, thank you so much. Angela Burns for joining us, and Diane Luton for joining us this afternoon into evening. All the best. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.